We begin 36th chapter, Lamed Vav, Loi, with a Vav, not with with an Aleph. Loi with an Aleph means no, Loi with a Vav means to him. Okay. So what is the ultimate purpose of creation? The Alter Rebbe begins this chapter. This is a well-known statement from the sages that Nisava Kodesh Baruch Hu Dira Kodesh Baruch Hu Dira Lias Loi Lamed Vav Dira V'Tachteinim. Translated, that the purpose of which the world was created is that God Himself desired to have an abode, or a place, a residence, if you will, in this lower realm. Loi, for Him. So we need to understand, what does it mean, a dwelling place? What does that mean exactly? What does it mean to dwell? And it's Loi, for Him. What is Him? Well, Him means the essence of God. That's what it means. So, a lot of questions here. How could the essence of God have a place to dwell? How could God have a desire to dwell? What does it mean? Like, He needs? He's lacking? Is God lacking? Is that possible to say? What does that mean? So, to begin the discussion, or actually, sorry, a further question is that He wants a dwelling place in this low physical world. Intuitively, what would we think? That, where does a person want to be? Well, they want to be in a higher place, not in a lower place. So why does God want to be, dwelling here in this lowest of all domains, and as opposed to a higher worlds? So we need to understand that. So to begin the discussion, and we only begin the discussion today, and in much of our discussion it kind of halts in the middle of a thought. The actual question we need to ask is, what does it mean higher and lower before God? Now we understand what it means to us, higher and lower, right? We get that. We're limited by time and space. There's a higher space, there's a lower space, right? There's something more of greater value to us and lesser value to us, for example. But God pervades all the worlds equally. He's beyond. He transcends it all. So what do you mean higher and lower? Where does that terminology even come when we're speaking of God? Again, from our perspective, of course there is, right? Shabbos is a higher time and a higher space, a higher time and a higher space that we occupy on that day than the rest of the week. Yom Kippur is, Shabbos Shabboson, is the Sabbath of Sabbaths, Shabbat Shabbaton. And, regular mundane day. So we get that from our perspective. We can't say that from God's perspective. Why? Because before God created the world, the only presence there was, the only reality there was Him. Well, after He creates the world, before Him, He's still the only reality. Just as before creation. So then the change that we're talking about doesn't apply to Him, higher or lower, but it means from our perspective. And what does that mean actually then? From our perspective, higher and lower, the vivifying force of God being a higher one or a lower one. Well, we've learned this idea before. The idea in one word, tzimtzum, contraction. That God veils and conceals Himself by diminishing His infinite light, slowly, gradually, as the creative force comes down from various spiritual worlds until this physical world. That in this physical world it's so veiled because we wouldn't be able to live with the light of God that would not be veiled, would not be concealing, right? As the sages interpret the word v'chai, and to live, that even angels that are called chayot HaKodesh, holy chayot, holy beings, right? They can't see godliness except by way of a veil that God conceals himself. Now, he doesn't conceal himself as much to them as he does to us. Indeed, that's the fact. And this concealment comes, as we've learned many a time, to what's called Seder Hishtalshalut, or the chain-like graded down succession of divine light, divine life, divine animation. So from world to world, level to level, it becomes diminished, culminating in creating this physical world that is gross in the fact that it is not just a darkness, but a double darkness. What does it mean, double darkness? That it's full with what we call klipa, a shell that covers over on the true reality. True reality being that God is what animates everything. Nothing exists outside of him. He is the true reality of all. But yet, we come to a feeling that I am, and there's nothing else but me. Not only do I exist, but I'm the center of the universe. Right? So much so that what happens with people, they could be very loving to another only because they're the center of the universe, and I'm loving to you for what I get back from you. That's what the kind of world we live in. And this comes in the order of creation. Again, this chain-like reaction of veiling, concealing, hiding the divine light. So in higher worlds, it is less hidden. Therefore, there's greater awareness. So, for example, where souls go after, 120 into the Garden of Eden, they have much greater clarity. And that's why it's a higher world, as opposed to this world. So that itself, we need understanding. And we actually conclude, the portion of learning for today.